This is Andi Purewal for ID Boxing. We are here in Las Vegas and I am joined by the WBC President Mauricio Sulaiman. Mauricio, firstly, how are you?
Fine. I'm doing very well. I'm very excited and very happy to be here in this very important program.
No, we appreciate you obviously doing this interview with us, and it's a big fight week. It's hopefully many people will see the end of this Canelo and Gennady-Golovkin feud, this trilogy on Saturday night. So far, Mauricio, how would you say it compares to the first and the second fights? Does it feel as big or maybe even bigger than what the first two fights were?
It is certainly bigger because the first two fights were great, were sensational. The first one was a true challenge. There were many doubts about Canelo being able to fight with Golovkin and Golovkin coming in. It was a very intense fight. It ended up in a draw. Then the second fight, it had a controversy with a so-called doping of clenbuterol. It eventually proved that there was no doping whatsoever, but that has stuck in Gennady's mind all these years, that Canelo was a cheater, was not firm. But if you like to pay attention of reality and the facts, clenbuterol and the levels that Canelo had at that time, WADA has changed the threshold so high, it would not have been any sort of violation. But 24 rounds, one draw, one split decision in favor of Canelo, and now, a few years later, here they are, and the whole world is absolutely watching.
Do you think on Saturday night, Mauricio, we have more of a definitive end result? You mentioned the draw, the split decision in the other fight. Do you believe come Saturday night it will be more of a definitive win for one of the two?
You can never tell. It's a very close fight. It's a definite time to close a chapter, the opportunity to close a chapter. Maybe they open another one. But they both are putting their legacy on the line. Whoever wins this fight is going to be regarded as the winner, the victorious over the other one. Regardless of what happened in 1 and 2, the winner of the third fight is going to be the one that writes the story with his own words. So it is everything up for grabs. Canelo is coming off a loss. People not realizing how important it was to take such risk and move up. Golovkin is coming up of a strong win in Japan against Murata. So it's going to be a sensational fight. Let's see what the state of mind is.
You obviously know Saul very well. He's had certain comments where he said that he wants to end the career of Gennady-Golovkin on Saturday night. From your understanding, Mauricio, how personal is this fight for Saul Canelo Alvarez?
It is very personal for both, not only for Canelo. There has been very bad blood between them. Even though they're gentlemen, after both fights, they went to the center of the ring and they hug each other. But still, they really don't like them and what they say and what they have done. It is very personal. It is very open. I know that when the fight ends, they're going to respect each other again because they are honorable. They are really fair play role models. But this time it seems very, very much more aggressive the way both are talking to each other.
When you look at anybody who Saul's fought in his career, when you look at Gennady-Golovkin, what in particular is it for you that you feel that maybe makes Saul feel like he needs to react the way that he does, where he says that he wants to end the career of Gennady-Golovkin? What in particular is it about the Kazakhstani fighter that makes him want to hurt him?
Because they fought 24 rounds and all those rounds have been close. None of them was a really total domination. There's a great ability. Both of them know each other very well. And I'm sure they both feel it's time to prove in a definite matter who is the best. Canelo has a great deal of enthusiasm. He's very motivated, and I expect Triple G to be as well. So it's a very intimate, personal position that they're both taking.
One talking point has been whether or not it goes for distance or if it ends inside the 12 rounds. In your opinion, Mauricio, is this one which we will see a knockout victory? Will it be a firefight, especially when you consider the styles or best attributes of both fighters?
You know, both knockout or decision are and can be very emotional, very good. I like both. When I see a knockout, it's exciting for the crowd. It's a definition. It's a statement. When you see a great 12-round fight, it cannot get better than that. So it depends. I'm not sure. We will see if things have changed since they last met. Now it's in 168, one weight category over. We'll see. This is the first time for Golovkin. Canelo has been much more adjusted to 168. That could be an advantage or it could be a disadvantage. Speed, the power, and whatever each one has as an attribute can come on into play on Saturday night.
Mauricio, just next to you, you've got another beautifully, specially designed WBC title belt, which will be on the line on Saturday night. Can you just kind of explain to everyone and show everybody what exactly means, how the design came about?
Okay, this is the Zapoteco Warrior, the Jaguar belt. From the culture of Oaxaca, as you can see, it has a jaguar claws, and this is a snake form that represents the core values of such culture, which is the jaguar was the most important god for the Zapotecas. And basically, this is a handmade piece elaborated through the mind and design of the artisans from Oaxaca, which is a present from Oaxaca and Mexico and the WBC to the world. September 15, May 5th are the two great holidays of Mexico. Cinco de Mayo, Independence Day. And it's a tradition for the last 40, 50 years that it is celebrated in a great fashion. Boxing came into play 40 years ago. So every Saturday of those 2 dates, a major fight has taken place. From Salvador Sanchez, Julio Cesar Chavez, Oscar de la Hoya, Floyd Mayweather took the time. Of course, Canelo, even Golovkin did a couple fights. And now it's the day that Canelo owns. And it is a great honor to present these commemorative belts, which are just a simple trophy to commemorate and to give a little bit flavor to a great fight like this one. This is a great pride, great honor, and whoever wins is going to take it home. Golovkin has a huichol from the first fight. It was a draw, so he was the defending champion. He kept that one. Then he has the Chiapas belt when he defeated Martirosyan. And then Canelo has the other Chiapas from when he defeated Triple G. So these belts are just a little bit of flavor, of color to add to a great fight. Just like we had the Union belt, which was a beautiful piece for Fury and White. We have done also for the Freedom Belt to commemorate Juneteenth, the abolition of, how do you say, slavery. So this is just something that WBC feels pride in doing this, and there's many fans around the world that like it. People who don't know boxing or don't watch boxing, they look into it and then they can watch boxing. So it's an addition to the interest of a fight.
Canelo is known now for boxing on Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Day. Mauricio, can you just kind of explain to everybody what Mexican Independence Day means to the people?
Yeah, Cinco de Mayo is the Battle of Puebla, when Mexico defeated a army that came into Mexico, the French, with 4-1. against a very underdog. Taken into boxing, Mexico was a full underdog. They were outclassed and they were outnumbered by 4-1. And Mexico stood up and with strategy defeated that time. So it became a huge celebration for our country. The Independence Day, it's the same. It's when Mexico was freed from the Spanish and became a sovereign country. So it's a big, big celebration. And the migrants who fled Mexico for over the years, trying to look for a better life, began celebrating those 2 dates while in the United States, feeling the roots and the love for the country, and it just became a great tradition.
What role does boxing play in the culture surrounding Independence Day now, Mauricio, because we've become used to seeing these big fights take place around it?
It is precisely that. It is the Mexican citizens, regardless where they are in the world, celebrating those 2 dates with passion for the roots. And Chavez and Salvador Sanchez and these Mexican warriors, Barrera, Morales, Marquez, they get in the ring and they bring a lot of pride for Mexico when they win in the ring, because Mexico is very powerful in the sport of boxing. It is national pride. It is a fact that Mexico is the 2nd country in number of world champions and the 3rd country in number of world championship fights. So it's a very important matter. The sport of boxing is very important to the people of Mexico. With that, whether you're the president or just a simple person without any great expectations, you love boxing. Everything is about boxing.
You mentioned some of the names, the Mexican names there, the fighters, the legends of the sport. Who did you kind of grow up watching? What's your earliest memories of watching these Mexican fighters?
Mantequilla Nápoles, he was from Cuba but became Mexican. He was my hero. Then Carlos Zárate was was my hero, Zárate. Then, of course, Salvador Sanchez, Julio Cesar Chavez. Then Morales, Barrera, Marquez were great threesome that would do sensational fights. But Chiquita González, Miguel Ángel González, José Luis Bueno, Ricardo López, so many great fighters that have gone into the ring. And of course today, Canelo Álvarez, whom I met many years ago when he was a young kid with freckles and that sweet smile, very quiet. But look at him, he has come into a great surprise to be the greatest fighter in the world.
That leads into my next question very nicely, Mauricio. In all your time working within boxing, you'd have seen and worked alongside some of these names. Where does Canelo now rank amongst all of them? Would you consider him to be the greatest ever Mexican fighter, or has he still got some way to go to complete that in your eyes?
Well, boxing is about eras. It's difficult to place one fighter in a list, because it depends when they fought, against who they fought, etc., etc. But without a doubt, Canelo is on top of every list. If he wins Saturday night, of course, he continues that legacy. But I believe he has done enough to deserve a very special place in the books of history.
What does Canelo mean to the people of Mexico and in boxing particularly?
It means pride. It means he has been an illusion to anyone. You can come from being a little boy selling candy in the street to be the biggest star of the world. And that's what Canelo has done. From a very poor background, with hard work, sacrifice, and dedication, he becomes the inspiration of millions, understanding that if you work, if you dream, if you follow that dream, you can make it.
Canelo has said he doesn't want to face another Mexican fighter, but when you look at the likes of David Benavidez, Jaime Munguia, Zerdo Ramirez, if he beat Dimitri Bivol, they could be some huge fights for Mexico. Do you think we will ever see them cross paths?
Well, it all depends. Canelo has had a long career, and I don't know what not fighting another Mexican would mean for him, whether it's respect or whether it's simply trying to look at different scenarios. But I think Canelo will fight anyone. He doesn't really care about anything. He just wants to go into the ring with the best. So if a Mexican fighter gets into the position that the world wants to see that fight, I'm sure he'll be there.
Has he ever spoken to you about going back to Mexico and fighting back home?
Yes, he has spoken. He wants to fight in Guadalajara, his hometown. He wants to fight in Mexico City. It would be great for him to close the Aztec Stadium. They're going to have a remodeling process, and they wanted to have Canelo as the close ceremony before they start for the World Cup. But we will see. Everything is on the line Saturday night. You cannot think beyond that.
Moving away from Canelo, I want to get your thoughts on a few other things. And one fight on this undercard, Bam Rodriguez and Israel Gonzalez. How special of a talent, in your opinion, Mauricio, is Bam Rodriguez, because he's widely considered to be a future star of the sport, and he's already a world champion?
Well, he came into boxing with a boom. He replaced Rung Bisai, who had medical issues, comes in to fight against Cuadras, heavy favorite, former champion 2 times, and what a surprise, he blew him away and became world champion. Then fights immediately against Rung Bisai and knocks him out. He knocked out a fighter who Chocolatito, Estrada, Cuadras could not knock down or knock out, and he came in and did it. It's a great, great story. He's very young. He's fighting above his weight, and he's just a surprise of the year, without a doubt.
Away from Bam Rodriguez, up to the heavyweight division, Tyson Fury. He's retired, he's came back, he's retired, he's back again, Mauricio. In all of the last few months, when Tyson's mentioned whether or not he would stay in the sport, did you ever believe that we wouldn't see him return to the ring?
Yes, I believed. I believed the dream of everyone outside of the ring is to see the fighters retire with health, with wealth, with a beautiful family, with a work to do ahead, with absolute happiness. And I believe he's going through that process in his life. But it's hard to figure him out of boxing at 34 when he has the whole world in his hands. And I'm happy that he is a WBC reigning champion. We will support him, whatever his decision is. And I know that Tyson Fury will be here to stay inside and outside the ring for legacy, for eternity in the WBC chapter.
There's a lot of talk of a mini Mauricio that he may well face Anthony Joshua next. Now, it's recently come out that the WBC's put him in at number 6 in the rankings, which kind of came out of the blue. Can you just tell everybody as to how that decision was made?
Yes, the rankings are meant for the fighters who are eligible to fight for the WBC title. Anthony Joshua was number 2 contender when he got the option to fight for the IBF against Martin a few years back. So when you fight for another organization, you are no longer eligible to fight for the WBC, so you're not ranked. He won the title, became the IBF champion, won other titles, made several title defenses. When he lost to Andi Ruiz, they immediately announced the rematch. So he was still a challenger for another organization. He became champion again, and then he lost to Usyk. And he was ranked in the WBC before they announced that they would do the rematch. So this is a very simple explanation. It didn't come out of the blue. Once you are not committed to fight for another organization, you are an option to be ranked, and that is what happened.
With talk of a potential all-British fight event between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, Mauricio, do you believe yourself we could see that in December?
Well, I would love to see that. I think it's a year that has broken all expectations. The great fights we have seen, the great fights that are scheduled to take place, the promoters and the networks realize how important boxing is to the world, and they're giving the fans what they want. So I would love to see our champion Fury have the challenge from Joshua, who was WBC international champion when he began his career. And as I said, he came all the way up to number 2 before he had the opportunity to go a different path. But I respect him very much. I think he's a tremendous fighter and a great human being.
Sticking with your rankings there, Mauricio, we saw Andi Ruiz Jr. recently beat Luis Ortiz. After the fight, he came out that's going to be a semi-final eliminator for the title. The other fight will be between Deontay Wilder and Robert-Helenius when they meet. Again, just how did that decision come about, Mauricio?
That was something that was announced a couple of months ago. We announced that Andi Ruiz and Ortiz is going to be a semi-final elimination bout, and then Wilder and Helenius also to be a semi-final, with Parker and Joyce fighting for the WBO interim. Then, of course, Ruiz winning that fight goes directly into number 2.
So we potentially could see Fury Wilder 4.
It is possible. It's down the line, but many things have to happen. Wilder has to fight and beat Helenius. Then he has to beat Ruiz. Fury has to continue as a champion, and perhaps eventually we will see the 4th of those fights.
Moving away from the heavyweights again, get your thoughts on some reports of a potential bout between Vargas and Leo Santa Cruz, Mauricio.
Well, they've been talking about that fight. That's a possibility. 2 great, dear friends of mine, gentlemen, family men that have been very close to the WBC and my family, and 2 great fighters. Santa Cruz has dominated at least a decade in the lower class categories. Great class act, great fighter with punch, with a great career. And Rey Vargas, he was the super bantamweight champion for 6 defenses. Then he comes up and he's a featherweight champion, defeated Gary Russell, who was Maxayo. I jumped a little bit ahead. And becomes champion, and he's just a very, very nice fighter who is ready to go into the ring. If that happened, if that fight is to happen, it would be a sensational one.
Another unification bout which was spoken about is one between Julio Cesar Martinez and Sonny Edwards, but it seems to have gone a bit quiet now. Mauricio, do you know anything about it?
No, I just received a text saying that there's an issue in that fight. I have no knowledge, but it's very unfortunate. I'd like to understand what happened.
Okay, well, maybe we'll see Eddie Reynoso, hopefully, and we can ask him. But Mauricio, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for speaking to me in ID Boxing.
Thank you so very much. I wish you the best, and thank you for giving our sport a great platform for the fans to be in touch.